What's going on? My name is Alan. I'm the founder of MediaJet Marketing, and I'm going to be doing a little video on how we structure meta funnels in 2026. So I've been in this space for 7 years, and I've seen the progression of the algorithm on Meta, and what that really looks like, and how you can kind of leverage it in your favor for your ad performance. So I'm going to talk about it in the simplest way possible to try to get you to understand our agency philosophy and how we run things. So I'll go ahead and jump right in. So when we think about your campaign, then you have you have your ad set inside of your campaign or ad sets. Then you have your ads, right? So whether you're running your ads yourself or you have an agency doing this for you, it's very important as a founder that you understand what's going on inside of your ad account. So back in the day, there was a very hands-on way of running campaign structures and audiences, which is why I think for the most part when you saw like media buying strategy, there were crazy build outs, right? Now we're a little bit simpler, and we rely on the algorithm, which is Advantage Plus, but also Andromeda, and what came with that update, to find the right buyers and then show them the right messages. So I'm now going to show how we kind of structure that. And the way I want you to think about it is with your product. So with your product in mind or your brand, I kind of like to see things on a product level, not on a brand level. But if we're thinking about the product, who does the product pertain to? Who is a buyer of your product? Everybody has different reasons for buying. For example, a creatine can be sold towards like an elderly audience, but it could also be sold towards, a gym goer that's a little bit younger, high performance, right? And like, let's say, hypothetically, it's a food item, and let's say it's keto, it's sugar free, and it's gluten free. Well, the sugar free angle potentially tailors towards a more elderly audience because they're watching their blood sugar for health reasons. The keto audience could then go for a younger audience that's a little bit more like fitness intensive and potentially on a diet, etc. And then the protein angle, well, that kind of explains itself, right? So you start to break out all these user personas in which they all pertain to a customer, but some of these customers don't share values, right? You have a value per customer that you can identify for your brand. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of mock that up, what that looks like. So, let's kind of start with our first campaign, right? Your first campaign, let's see, your first campaign, I'm going to use the example of, the creatine supplement. I think that's a very easy one to understand. So, you have a creatine, and this first angle is going to go ahead and go for elderly. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to build our first ad set, right? So you want to put that ad set inside of this campaign, and it's going to also be for creatine for elderly. And then we're going to go ahead and build the ads inside of the ad set, right? So we're going to do 50 ads inside of the ad set that pertain to this audience. So what this means is that what we're feeding this funnel is different than what we're going to feed another funnel, because this, all the 50 assets inside of this ad set are going to be built for this audience group. So, in practice, what does that really look like? Maybe elder actors / testimonials. Maybe we have elderly pain points. Maybe we have elderly solutions. right? So that kind of gives you a good idea of what I'm talking about here. So the copy, the creative, the funnel structure is now built for one user persona. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at the beginning. One user persona. Okay. So one user persona, right? And then inside of this campaign, we're now going to go ahead and point to, I'm going to change the color of this one to a landing page that is built for this audience. So now we're going to point to a landing page that's built for this audience, right? All right, go ahead and put the arrows, a little more visual here. Okay, so that is kind of what your structure looks like on this first campaign for this brand. Now, this campaign is your first campaign, and it can potentially, let's say on an ad spend level, maybe it can only spend, let's say it spends $250 per day. At $250 per day, we have good performance. If we scale past this, we may see diminishing returns because the ability to find more people like this is exhausting itself, right? I'm going to talk about like creative and when to replace creative in a second. But this gets your kind of head turning on this funnel, the maintenance of this funnel, and what this funnel's kind of built for and how it came into fruition. So spending $250 per day might be the sweet spot. And let's say hypothetically, we have a 2 ROAS at this ad spend, a 2 first-time customer ROAS, and this funnel is good, right? So what's next? Because, immediately we're going to start thinking about how do we scale past $250 per day on this brand. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to the next funnel. And this next funnel is going to be, once again, one user persona, and we start all over again. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. Here is your second funnel. And this second funnel is creatine, but it's actually for hybrid athletes, right? So it starts, you start getting an idea of why you do this, right? It's because of the congruency within your audience pool. It's total synergy between who the audience is and what we're showing them within the funnel, right? So maybe in this scenario, we're showing them, athlete creative, athlete reviews. Maybe we're showing them specific problems that athletes face. I'm going to give you an example of what that could be. So specific problems that athletes face may be maybe muscle loss due to high intensity workouts. It might be potentially a higher level of deterioration on muscles and joints, and how creatine can address that issue, right? So this starts to give you an idea how the same product can be a solution for multiple user personas, right? And being vague within your funnels does not work anymore. So we don't want to sell a creatine for everybody. We want to build multiple funnels long-term that, encompass exactly who we're selling to, right? This is a very common strategy. This is why, brands at the end of the day end up having, especially today in 2026, brands end up having, over, I don't know, I've seen even some ad accounts with over like 1,000 creatives, 1,000 to 5,000 creatives inside of their accounts. That's because each ad set can only have 50 assets, right? That's the max. So could you potentially expand ad sets inside of a campaign? You can, but this is the simple way of getting started on what we're talking about, because it keeps things isolated and clean. Then you have, account performance on a campaign level, or on a entire ad manager level, but your independent funnels have different volatility because they're isolated experiences, right? Isolated experiences built for specific buyers on the other end. So yeah, that's kind of the thing I wanted to communicate today, and it's something that's changed within Meta and the way we run Meta. Andromeda, what that means, I'll give you a little bit of a recap of these 4 points that I put at the top. Andromeda, what that means is that the algorithm favors creative diversity. Let me tell you why. The reason why is because when you have the 50 assets inside of one ad set, for example, this ad set has 50 assets, right? 50. Meta is going to find the asset that's getting the most conversions, and it's going to put it here at the bottom of the funnel. This ends up creating singular assets to get a majority of the conversions, right? So let's say 70% of the budget goes here. 70% of the budget goes down to that asset that's getting conversions this week. Your other 50 assets are going to be shown additionally to lead this asset to having the CPA that you want. So as an agency owner, I run accounts to see the algorithm and try to understand it in the best way possible. And I have removed creatives that were not getting conversions. Like let's say, for example, you just chop this amount because they're not getting conversions, and it actually increased the CPA of the main performing asset, right? So I try to tell my clients, don't look at performance on a creative level. Keep your vision on the campaign level, and we will do our job and monitor what's going on inside of your ads, right? So, when you talk about like when to replace creative, I think that's a big point. So you replace creative when you start to see spend on the asset and start to maybe understand that it does not make sense anymore from a funnel perspective, or it's not getting spend and you gave it a few weeks. Because what I've seen is that your creative spend with Advantage Plus, it rotates, right? So some will get creative this week, some will get some will get spend next week, right? So some get spend this week, some get spend next week. That process is AI, and it is very fast and smart, and it's very effective, right? So you kind of want to leave those 50 assets uninterrupted. At our agency, we launch campaigns with about 15, and then we add creative every week. And we build about one creative, or we try to add about one creative per day. Sometimes weekly, we just upload creative, right? So we're always adding creative to our funnels to try to get to 50 per ad set. And yeah, that's kind of the breakdown of funnel structures in 2026. Obviously, this now gives you the ability to think about how many additional funnels could you make. Probably tens of, or even hundreds, right? So that is what brands are doing. They're scaling horizontally into additional funnels, and those funnels are very specific to which audience they're going after. Appreciate you for watching this video. If you're looking for a little bit of help, or potentially for me to jump in, look at your structure and give you my thoughts on it, go ahead and book a call with me. The link is down below, and I'll go ahead and jump on that one-on-one, and we can kind of put together a plan of how your ads should look in 2026. Thank you.